Hello and welcome to Timecode. In the previous video, we looked at some very important debug functions like let's go to the code, the dream scripts, and then we did the debug function, and then we were able to understand what an alert is, what a print statement is, and then we also looked at the top here, what a comment is. In this video, we are going to understand the MQL5 language the more, and then we'll go ahead with looking at some very basic things also. Okay, so let's put up a browser. Okay, pull up a browser, and then you go to MQL5.com. MQL5.com. Okay, so inside MQL5, go home and then go to documentation. All right. Now, if your browser is small, you would see it here. Yeah, you would see it here, just here. But I've zoomed in for you to see more. All right, so we have the various references. We have the basic language, basic constant. These are nested topics that we can look at. So inside the language basics, you have the syntax. Inside the syntax, you have comments, identifiers, reserved words, and all. All right, so I'm just going to go through some of them as simple as possible. All right, so let's first look at the syntax. Okay, so the MQL5 language is for programming trading strategies. Okay, and it's very similar to C++. So coming from a C++ background, this would be easy peasy for you. I want to touch on something in the syntax. Okay, there is a topic we treated in the previous video, which is comment as a function. Comment as a function. In programming, we have something called commenting. Commenting is just a piece of text that is added to the code to explain part of the code. Okay, so I did this right here. So this is a basic explanation. Let me just do. This is a basic explanation to debug functions. Okay, now let's compile this. Compile this. Go back. And then let's execute this again. And then you realize that there is no clue of this text anywhere. Okay, so it is just there to explain what the code does, but it is totally ignored when it comes to the execution of the code itself. So we have commenting in programming, which is this. All right. Then inside MQL5, we have something we call comment as a function, and comment is a way of presenting information from the script or the expert advisor or wherever to the chat that it is on. I hope that clears the difference between commenting in programming and the comment in this section. All right, let's go ahead in the documentation. We have the single line commenting, which I did right here. Single line is just a single line. Okay, then we have the multi-line commenting. We have the multi-line commenting. Multi-line, if I have multiple things to say about this, say, okay. All right, then I would say the name. Let's say the author is Ben. Okay, then I have time of design. Would say 5:55 p.m. All right, so if I have description, then I have this. All right, so if you have multiple lines, the text that you want to provide is in multiple lines. You just present it in this way. So this is the difference. Okay, now let's go back to the language basics, and then let's look at what for the data types. Okay, so in data types, any program operates with data. In the forex market, the indices market, whatever market, even in real life programming, everything we do is with data. Okay, so data can be of several types. It can be an integer, it can be a float, it can be a number, it can be a boolean, and whatsoever. So we are going to look at the various types of variable types or the data types in programming, in MQL5 programming. All right, so let's look at this line. So it says that data of different types are processed with different rates. So integer data are processed at the fastest. I want you to not forget this very line. Okay, Then it goes on to say to process the double precision, a special processor is used. However, because of the complexity of internal representation of data with floating point, they are represented slower than the integer ones. Okay. Now also we have strings are processed at longest because of dynamic memory allocation. So in the order of complexity, okay, we have integer, which is the least complex variable. Okay, it's processed at the fastest. Then we have the floating points or the double numbers. And then we go to the strings. So in essence, if you want your code to run faster, you would need to take precaution, or you need to really understand how these work. If you are declaring a variable that will store numbers in a particular range, you should know which type of integer to use in order to speed up the coding process. Okay. Now, some people design indicators, and the indicators are so large because they didn't consider the complexity time. All right. So we are going to dive into the integer type. Okay. Okay. So for the integer type, we have char, we have uchar, we have woo, you have short, you have u short, inting, uint, color long, u long, and then the date types. So in MQL5, integers are represented in 11 types. We are going to learn what all of these types mean. Okay. Okay. Let's start with the char. Okay. The char. Now, this is a table representing the size, the minimum value, the maximum value. All right. So let's focus on type, minimum, and maximum value. Now we have char and uchar. Char considers negative numbers as well, so it ranges from a negative 128 to a positive 127. Uchar, on the other hand, processes from 0 to 255. Now, what is the difference? Any variable type that has u in front of it means that it is unsigned. An unsigned variable type means that it doesn't take values less than 0. So negative 1 to negative infinity, it doesn't consider it. Now, there is another complexity attached to processing negative numbers. Okay, so in essence, u numbers, u variable types, so u char are even faster to process than the char itself. If you are sure your numbers are always going to be positive and between 0 and 255, then you should always consider the u variable types. Now let's create a simple script to be able to explain this better. So let's create. Okay, so variables. Okay, variables, and do finish. All right. So inside on start. Okay, on start we just declare. So let's do the char, and then let's do num equals 12. Then let's go ahead and print this to the terminal. Compile, go back to the terminal, and then we should have it here, variables, and then we have 12 in the terminal in the expert tab. Let's do a number that is bigger than 255, so 400. Okay, what happens? It gives us a warning that there has been a truncation of a constant value from 400 to, Now, there is something in programming called overflow. So this variable is supposed to take not more than 256, right? 255, but you have passed 400. So it causes something called an overflow. So if you know that the value of the variable is going to be greater than the variable type, you should just go for the bigger one. But when you know what you are dealing with, then you have to stay within the range to help your complexity. Okay, let's define another variable. So this, let's just say it's a 10. Okay, let's define a car, and let's do unum. Okay, unum equals 10. Now let's go here and let's do the unum. Okay, unum. What happens? Let's go back to the code, and we have a 10 and a 10. Okay, now you can set it to any value, and then it works for you. You can set it to any value. let's go back to the documentation. Now we have bool, okay? So the bool type is called the Boolean type variable. So let's do bool is true, okay? Is true equals, it can be 1, right? It can be 0, it can be any variable type, or it can be just true, right? And it can be false. Okay, so let's first put true and print it out. Let us print out is true, right? Go back, compile, and it compiles successfully. Let's run this, and it says it's true. Now, what if we enter an integer number? Okay, say 14. Go back to the code, compile it, and it's true. Let's consider a negative 10. Okay, what does it say? True. Let's consider, let's just put a 0 here. All right, a 0 here. What does it say? It says a false. So this tells you that any variable type that is not 0 is always true. Any variable type that is not 0 is true for a Boolean. It takes just two possibilities, two states, either a negative 1 or a 1. Okay, either a 0 or a 1. Now, we will use short is essentially the same. Short is essentially the same. Integers takes close to a 2 billion, about 2 billion, negative 2 billion. I want to touch on the color type also. All right, so let's go up to this terminal. You see the colors for this, colors for the terminal. You have to set them, okay? Now, MQL5 has provided us with a way to do that. So you declare a color type, okay? And then let's just call it cool. And let's do the CLR red, okay? What happens? Let's do variables. Now let's print it out. So let's print the cool. Okay, compile successfully. Let's go back to cool, and you have CLR red. Okay. Now you can also put in the hex number. So 000. We know it's black. Okay. So you go back, compile it. It works for your CLR black. Okay. So either put in the hex representation, the hex number, or just type CLR, and then it will populate, auto-populate here for you, and then you can select any type of features, and then it works. Okay. Let's go back, and we have what we call the long. A long is a long representation of the integer. This takes a large number from a negative whatever to a very big positive number. Okay, so we have the long and U long. Okay, we have the date type. Date types take from 1970 all the way to 31st December 3000. Okay, so how do we declare so let's look at how we declare date type from, right? You can put it in two ways. You can put the number representation of the date here. Okay, this is a random date. I just put it out. I just put it there. Let's look at it, and let's see what it tells us. Go back to the terminal and do this, and we have the date. So it is 1983. This date I put there is 1983. Okay, so you can put the integer representation or a string representation. This is how it is. So type a capital D, then put this in a single quote, then the date. So 2024 10th 12th of October 2024 at 12:15. And then let's run this. Go back to the terminal, variables, and we have it here. Okay, let's look at strings next. So a string, right, is just a word or a sentence or a group of characters. Okay, so word equals hello and welcome to Timecodes. Okay, so let's do word from welcome to Timecodes from, then the date. Okay, great. Let's see if this works correctly. Go back to the code, compile. All right, so hello and welcome from the date. This works. Okay, now let's go back to another concept in programming called typecasting. Okay, so typecasting is often necessary to convert one numeric type. Let's look at the keyword, a numeric data type to another type. So let's look at this from date. Okay, so we know that this is, it will come as a string presentation. Okay, so let's go back and run this script again. Variable from this, I can change the type from a date type to an integer. So this is what we call typecasting. Put it in a bracket and then compile it. Okay, go back, and then we should have this as a number. Now what will happen if I convert it into a boolean? Guess this is going to be true because that number is not 0. All right, from true. Okay, so this is what we call typecasting. Hope you enjoyed this video, and see you in the next video. We are going to go to some operations and expressions, so additions, arithmetics, assignments, and all of that. We are going to do all of that in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video to your friends.